Well, today's episode, we're going to review Ring of Honor, MLW, NXT UK 205 Live, and of course, New Japan Strong. So, all of that will be reviewed, discussed, and talked about on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I'm your host, J-Rod here. Now, let's begin with Ring of Honor. This one had an interesting two-matchup episode. On this one, they had student versus teacher. We have this guy I never heard of. His name is Joe Keys, who's been in the ROH dojo under the guy training of none other than the Octopus, who is currently both the pure champion and, of course, one half of the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. And I'm talking about Jonathan Gresham. Now, this match was very interesting because, as you know, Ring of Honor has been bringing this wrestling style, catch wrestling, but they call it pure wrestling, involving this. And of course, Joe Keys is amongst those wrestlers that Jonathan Gresham had his eyes on to train and teaching him what he knows about pure wrestling, which is something very interesting. So this time, there was a match between two of the Ring of Honor dojo students. Whoever won that match was going to get an opportunity to face Jonathan Gresham for the Pure Championship. Now, this is something unprecedented we've seen, but I think Ring of Honor are really taking this a little bit more serious. As you know, I talked about Ring of Honor on various occasions, either on the YouTube channel or the podcast, where I mentioned Ring of Honor doesn't stand out to expose more of their product. They just doesn't seem like they want to do that, but I hope in this matter they should try to expose more of their product, because I know that some they don't come down here to California, and that's kind of a bummer. But let's talk about the match. The match was so good. Now, you can see that sometimes in these type of particular matches, it's the student that tries to learn from the master what they like, everything they knew, try to figure out what tricks they knew. But it's also the teacher who learns from its students. Like, sometimes you got to learn what are their weak points, and that is one of the things that we pay attention with matches like these in the past. But however, it was a good match, and Jonathan Gresham won his match, retaining the Pure Championship, gaining the respect of his student, but his student also got his respect from him. So we may see this guy Joe Keys down the line for a future Pure Championship match in the future. Now, this next event goes, well, they throw in this little seat thing. As you know, you may have heard of this guy named Danhausen, who's this weirdo who acts like he's a circus freak. In Final Battle, he won his match against Brian Johnson, who believes that Danhausen didn't belong in Ring of Honor, and he's now Danhausen saying that he's there to make money and all this. But Brian Johnson doesn't like the fact that this guy is causing all this, that he's felt that he's being overlooked, like from weirdos like Danhausen. Who cares? Danhausen earned his spot. But however, Brian Johnson is not done with him. He hasn't forgotten what this guy did to him in Final Battle last year. So I'm very interested to see. Now, this next match, it was between the Bouncers and the OGK. If you guys don't know what the OGK stands for, it means the Original Kingdom, the consistent with Matt Taven and his best friend Mike Bennett. Now, however, Bruiser from the Bouncers, he has a bit of an issue with Mike Bennett. The reason this is, Vincent, on the other hand, also has an issue with Mike Bennett. He views him as, you were gone for 5 years. Where the hell were you? Where were you around Matt Taven when he needed you? So that's always been the mind game. But the match itself between these two teams was great. It kind of showed, okay, Mike Bennett, who's still trying to recover from his injuries that he obtained from Vincent and Bateman, the Righteous, it kind of went in that way. But however, it did not stop them, but it did allow for the OGK to win the match. Now, however, Maloney, who is one half of the bouncers, brought out some beers. But however, the party was interrupted once again by Vincent, but this time Vincent did not attack. He had no intentions in hurting Mike Bennett or Matt Taven. He decided to get in the head of Broser, trying to tell him that here's this guy, Mike Bennett, who's gone for 5 years, and all of a sudden they left the keys open for him. So he got into his head. Even Maloney was in shock for what he did. Broser attacked both Bennett and Taven. So basically, this war between both the OGK and the Righteous is far from over. Basically, Vincent believed that Taven had held him back and that Bennett had no right to come back after 5 years. So the real question is, when is this feud between these two teams is going to end? But also at the same time, what does this mean for the bouncers? Is this the end of the bouncers? Well, we just got to know what happens the following week on that. And I will stick close to that story. So let's move on with MLW, Major League Wrestling. Alright, so we got Major League Wrestling for MLW Fusion. First match of the night was a member of the Sentai Death Squad taking on Jordan Oliver. Now remember, this feud between the Contra Unit and Injustice goes way back since the start of the pandemic. As you know, Jordan Oliver hasn't forgotten what Contra Unit did to their friend Kodo Brazil. And of course, they've been making attacks against Contra Unit. They want a piece of them. So this time, instead of putting either Simon Gotch or Davari, they sent out one of the members of the Sentai Death Squad. The match was pretty interesting because, however, it's now been noticeable in this particular matchup. Jordan Oliver has been gaining a lot of weight to enter the heavyweight contender spot. As you know, Myron Reed, he is more of the lightweight or cruiserweight type of division. So, however, it appears that Injustice will get their justice against Contra Unit, but however, it was Jordan Oliver that was able to win his match. But this war between both Injustice and Contra Unit is far from over. But in his post-match comments, he says he wants to strip Jacob Fatu of the World Heavyweight title. So I don't know if he's ready for that, but we'll see what Fatu has to say. This is the one thing Fatu will not tolerate, because he knows there is another competitor that wants a piece of him, and that person is Alex Hammerstone, who we get to in a bit. Now, as you know, recently there has been a bit of a controversial matter that took place when it came with Savio Vega regaining what was stolen from him. I'm talking about the IWA Caribbean Heavyweight Championship that was taken by Richard Holiday, who stole it. He claimed that he earned it. But however, that wasn't the side of it. Selena de La Renta, who has been now no longer the owner of Promociones Dorada, is saying that the new owner has an interest in Savio to help him out with money issues, since the IWA is no longer lacking of financial resources due to the pandemic. And it kind of went into a very interesting mode. Now, I don't know what Savio would say. I know for a fact he would align himself with the owner. Now, if you guys don't know this, when Savio Vega first arrived in MLW, he was given an offer to join Promociones Dorada, but however, it was Conan that kind of, told him not to because whatever he got, it was a sham. But now we don't know what is going to be in this situation. Now, related to the IW, because of this matter, apparently there's now been talk that the referee may have been causing another problem during that match between Holiday and Vega. So we will know for a fact, even though Holiday believes there's a conspiracy against him, saying that there was no controversial matter that took place in that match. Well, that's not true. We all saw that, but we'll see what happens. So if Vega does have a chance to regain what was stolen from him, we just gotta wait and see when it happens. Now, as you know, the rivalry between the Von Erichs and Filthy is still getting strong. Apparently, Filthy wants to build Filthy Island in the neck of the woods in Hawaii where the Von Erichs live, even though they're Texas boys. So, Von Erichs have plans to possibly invade, you know, Filthy Island. But they also talk about ACH, how some people say things about him. They know what they say about him, even though ACH is also a felon in Texas like them. But right now, their most focus is on Lawler. Now we got the MLW World Tag Team Championship on the line. We got TJP and his protege Bukudao taking on Los Parks. Now the match seemed like it was going great, but however, it didn't go exactly. Somehow, the ref couldn't tell between LA Park's sons. You see, his son, Hijo de LA Park, was the main guy involved in the match. But somehow his other son, LA Park Jr., got involved and swapped uh, bodies away from each other. The ref didn't see it. So in this matter, those Parks regained the titles, but however, it appears that TJP and Budagu may no longer be a tag team. TJP is not satisfied how this match ended. So we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll pay attention to that in weeks' times. Now, as you know, a week ago, Laredo Kid said that he wants to wrestle for the MLW World Middleweight Championship that is currently being held by Leo Rush. Now, Leo Rush, he's not an idiot. But he did state it, I don't know who you are. But you know what? Since you have gold, I have gold. Like, make this into inter promotional championship match. So basically, this is going to take place next week. It's going to be the MLW middleweight title versus the AAA cruiserweight title. This is going to be one killer match. Now, the next semi-final match, this is between Gringo Loco and Gino Medina. Now, Gino Medina hasn't been wrestling for a while since the whole back and forth thing between him and Richard Holiday. Gino claimed that he quit. Holiday claimed that he fired him. So it's the matter of he said. But this time, Medina wants to prove that he is not some sort of a, what Holiday described him. But he did prove it in a way that when he took out Gringo Loco. But however, it appears he got himself into a feud with Gringo Loco and started a melee in the back when he won. But the interesting thing happens during the match. An associate of Azteca Underground, whoever runs the organization that runs Promociones Dorada, was watching the match between Gringo Loco and Gino Medina. So the commentators kind of said, who you think is paying attention? Well, for me, my money is on Gino. Reason to say is, he says he's intocable, which means, in translation, untouchable. Now let's get to the main event, which is between Alex Hammerstone and Mads Krugger in a, hope I pronounce it right, a Marcaia Brawl match. Basically, it's something that Mads Krugger said that comes from in South Africa. So don't ask me what it is. I never heard of it. I didn't do research. But however, there was a danger to this. The match was so dark you couldn't tell if he was there or not. Now, Krugger did attack Hammerstone in the match, but however, something went wrong. Apparently, he swapped bodies, but this was more than just a match. It was more of a beatdown to hurt Alex Hammerstone, but it ended without saying who was the winner. So the real question is, what happened? What has come to Hammerstone? All we gotta do is wait on the upcoming week and see what happens. So let's keep moving forward with NXT UK and 205 Live. Alright, so as you know, I always do cover both NXT and 205 Live at the same time. So let's go from everything starting with NXT and 205 Live. First match of NXT UK, we have Xia Brookside versus Mina Samuels. As you know, these two have a deep hatred of each other. Mina Samuels has issues towards Xia Brookside, believes that she's nothing more than someone who carries her back. She thinks she doesn't belong in NXT UK, that she doesn't deserve to be there. But Xia Brookside had enough of her, so instead to try to taunt her by bringing bags into ringside. But however, she used that as a distraction that I would allow her to grab a handbag to win the match. But because of this, Xia Brookside will not take this loss very lightly. But Mina Samuels will, but she'll probably say the same old thing, that she will be nothing more than someone who would carry her bags. So she asks Xia Brookside, asks Sid Scala to set up the rematch. She doesn't care when or where or how it's going to happen. Just get it done. Now, as you know, Jordan Devlin was able to beat the various best wrestlers that came after his NXT Cruiserweight title. So he demanded for an opponent. So he asked Sid Scala find him an opponent. But the entire night he asked Jake Stars. He didn't do it. He even asked various others, but no one's interest. But we'll get to that in the end when we get to the whole point. Now we have an interesting match. This one is from between Josh Morrell and Joseph Connors, who is in fact aligned himself with Ginny. Joseph Connors, who we haven't seen since the Heritage Cup, all of a sudden just reemerged, helping Ginny, allowing Ginny to win the match for the number one contendership to face Kaylee Ray. Now we're seeing Joseph Connors in a new distinct attitude, new way of him trying to improve his recognition by siding himself with Ginny. Even there was a moment with Ginny where she said that the Connors is worthy, the opponent is not. But of course, it did end it in that way, where Joseph Connors won his match. Now, we have recently been seeing the newest attitude with Ilja Dragunov. He's somehow trying to be a better person, or tried to reinvent himself the best way possible ever since he lost his match against Walter. Now he was facing against Tyson T-Bone, but during his match we just saw Sam Gradwell. Now I don't know what Sam Gradwell's deal is, but he has been taunting or trying to get in the head of Ilja Dragunov. Now I don't remember if Sam Gradwell had a match with him. If he did, I'll go back to it and see what it tells me. But the way it went down, it kind of was going in a direction where Dragunov won his match, but however, he lost control. Now, I don't know what is going on, but seems that Sam Gradwell is happy to see what he's been doing. Don't know what's going to happen. Now, the next match we have against Danny Jones versus Gallus leader Joe Coffey. Now, I've been a fan of Joe Coffey for a while, since he's been very impressive along with his faction known as Gallus. He was able to win his match, but however, that was not the important part. It was during his post-match promo where he called out Rampage Brown. Rampage Brown, who has been a talk of the entire NXT UK universe he wants to set up a match against him. And of course, Rampage Brown, who heard everything, comes out and tells him, all you got to do was ask. So that's his way of saying, I accept your challenge. So that is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Now we get to the main event. Jordan Devlin, who's been the top wrestler in 205 weight class for the cruiserweight, he demanded an opponent. But however, we just saw an opponent that doesn't fit the 205 standard. He called him 305 Live, and that is Dave Mastiff the Baller. Now, it's still unclear why Dave Mastiff, but it looks like he did. He is trying to give, Jordan Devlin a run for his money due to the fact that Trent Seven, who is now currently working his way to lower his weight class to 205 Live, even though it became a match where it's okay, let's see what he can do. The match was pretty interesting because Jordan Devlin, who's been the best wrestler of right now, is facing a guy who's more bigger than him. And it kind of proved Jordan Devlin, it doesn't matter who he faces, whether you're 205 Live or 305 Live or 304 or 305, I don't know. That's how it goes. But he won his match like that. So it proved he can do anything, but he is more dominant in the cruiserweight division. Now let's go to the 205 Live. We got Tony Nese teaming with Arya Daivari taking on a very unusual team up. It was revealed on Twitter that both tag team groups, Everrise and the Bollywood Boys, decided to bury the hatchet and just be friends, which was unusual. Now, Daivari and of course Nese were a bit of confused. So who was wrestling? It turned out the team that teamed up was Matt Martel from Everrise teaming with Sunil Singh of the Bollywood Boys. Very interesting dynamic. But however, it didn't do so well for them. But I have to say, it was a good effort on their part. Matt Martel wasn't angry. He knew that there were some things they need to work on, but it did prove that the 205 Live originals are still dominant in their domain. Now we get to the main event, which was Jake Atlas versus August Starr. This is more of the newcomers who has proved who's deserving to be in 205 Live. And it was a good match to watch between these two individuals. But however, it ended with August Gray winning his match. But it did not end there. It ended with the sudden appearance of 205 originals Nese and Daivari, sending a message to the newcomers. Now you ask yourselves, why are they doing that? They believe that their spots are being threatened by newcomers. Now Nese and Daivari could have gone to the main roster if they wanted to, but they didn't. They ended up in 205 Live instead. So they are like the last breed in this particular brand. Cedric Alexander, who's 205 Live, ended up in Raw. You got who else has gone? Some wrestlers already in Raw or SmackDown. That's the problem. These two guys don't want their spots to be taken, so they're threatened by the newcomers. So what's going to happen? Are we going to see a war between the newcomers versus the last two members of the 205 Live originals? Well, we just got to wait and see when that day happens. So I think that's it for now with the WWE stuff. Let's end it with New Japan Strong, the road to the new beginning USA. Okay, the final thing we're going to review, we got the beginning of Road to the New Beginning USA 2021. Now, as you know, they already have the Road to the New Beginning in Japan. They already did Nagoya. We got Hiroshima coming up on the 10th and the 11th of February, which is going to be an interesting event. But this time, we got the New Beginning USA coming up, which is going to end with we have an incredible match between Kenta finally getting his shot of the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship against Moxley. Now, as you know what happened a week ago, Moxley attacked Kenta out of nowhere. Now, it's strange that New Japan in this episode they did not mention Kenta attacking Moxley in AEW. Now, you probably ask yourselves, why is that? Well, I can tell you all of these shows with New Japan Strong are pre-taped. So basically, they already shot it, so there'll probably be no mention. That's my opinion, the way it happens. But don't argue about it because that's how New Japan is. And is this the beginning of the new door? Well, we don't know. But he did state in an interview in the middle of the show where Moxley talked to Kevin Kelly saying that he wants to face the Kenta that he knew. Now, if you remember, Kenta first arrived in New Japan by Shibata. The world was buzzing during that time when Kenta made his debut there, talking about how he wants to be part of the G1 Climax. That was the very same event where Moxley first appeared as well. And he wanted to wrestle Kenta ever since then. And now that is going to happen, now we know that Kenta has been calling him out for months, ever since he won the case that contains the contract for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. And now Kenta gets his wish, and he believes that he will dethrone Moxley. But Moxley, he says he wants to see the Kenta that he knows, not the Kenta that hangs out with the Bullet Club. That's what not he wants. And that kind of is interesting. But you know Kenta, he may or may not have his Bullet Club compatriots helping him out to ensure. Because I do know Phantasmo mentioned on Twitter how he felt that he did something that he's going to regret. Well, we'll just wait and see. Now, the entire event had 3 incredible matches. First match was a Young Lions match from the LA Dojo between the DKC and Kevin Knight. Now, previously, the DKC lost a match against Clark Connors. Now, basically, there was a moment, the reason it could have happened. Now, as you know, many of the Young Lions, their best submission move is the Boston Crab. That's always been the dilemma. However, Kevin Knight hasn't even, how do I say, perfected it yet. It wasn't even close to what Clark Connor uses, because Clark Connors has used that Boston Crab on various occasions in previous matches. But it did prove DKC to should throw in another type of submission where he used. Now, I'm not sure if he was allowed to use it, because I mentioned time and time again the Young Lions were only allowed to use limited moves in permission. Now, Shibata is the head instructor in the LA Dojo. Now, I don't know how much lenient he has, but it did allow DKC to win his first match as a Young Lion, which was very impressive. Now, the next match is a very interesting 8-man tag team match. On one corner, we have the Regal twins, Logan and Sterling, teaming up with Barrett Brown, someone who they're familiarized, and of course, Brody King. And the other corner, we have Jordan Clearwater, Adrian Quest, Mysterioso, and Bateman. Now, however, Bateman is the one person who is the oddball in this entire. He doesn't seem like he likes to be friends with anybody as long as they're on the same page for one thing only. And that page is winning. So, but I did like how the Regal twins, Barrett Brown, and Brody King work together. I have to say, I would like to see these 4, in my opinion, or should I say, as a way of saying, come on, guys, team these guys up, they look great. I mean, there was a moment where the Regal Twins asked Brody to pick him up and slam them on Bateman, and then Barrett Brown did the same thing. I mean, come on, how often do you see that? You don't. I say these guys work together, but however, it ended when Bateman made the pinfall on Barrett Brown. But however, Barrett Brown doesn't act like he's a team player. He just wants to get the job done, and that's it. But do we see him down the line to team up with any of these guys? Who knows? Now, the main event was a spectacular one. We have TJP versus a fellow Tijuanan person who I met one time, Ray Horace. This was a very interesting match between these two. Now, if you guys aren't familiarized with Ray Horace, he is 1/3 of the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champions with Flamita and Bandito, known as the Mexi Squad. And also, Ray Horace is the cousin of 619 himself, Rey Mysterio. Ray Horace always impresses me every single time. But I love his work, what he does. And this match was amazing between both Ray Horace and TJP. But however, it was Ray Horace who won this match by really throwing a great move. But it did cost TJP a little. He kind of injured his neck. But we'll see how he is in the upcoming weeks. As for Ray Horace, he continues to impress me. I would like to see him compete in the Best of the Super Juniors down the line. Hope you guys will love that too. So I think that's it for now for reviewing these incredible shows. Stay tuned for more. I may have coming up a 3-day event of Stardom and a few others. I'm still catching up with a month of all Japanese wrestling promotion, and I still haven't reviewed Ohio Valley Wrestling, but we'll get to that soon enough. So, I must bid all of you guys adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.